I'm here with Neil Kumar. He is the CEO of BridgeBio. It's a pioneering biotech company that develops genetically targeted medicines to treat patients with rare diseases. So I know that BridgeBio is really a different kind of biotech. In what ways?
First of all, thanks for having me. Fundamentally, BridgeBio seeks to serve as many patients as possible as quickly as possible. And when we looked at the traditional biopharmaceutical business model, we thought there were a couple of areas that needed improvement. Number one, we wanted to be much more cost and time efficient, allowing us to serve patients in even smaller populations that are often the ones most devastated by genetic disease. Second is we wanted to have a diversified pipeline so we could quickly close down things that weren't working. And third, we wanted to marry all of those attributes with focus at the level of each biology, focus at the level of each asset. So how do you do that? We created a decentralized holding company model that allows our scientists to focus at the level of each program as they prosecute it, but to be hooked up to a centralized chassis that allows for time and cost efficiencies.
So with all of that in mind, what is the end result for patients?
Fundamentally, more drugs in shorter periods of time. 18 INDs, 3 approved products in less than 10 years, I think makes us one of the more productive biotechs that has been around in the last 30 years. And our hope is that we're just getting started for the patients that we serve, some in large markets, some in smaller markets.
So you mentioned these 3 pivotal trials. I mean, in the next 12 months, right, they're each about $1 billion readout. Am I right in that?
That's right. These are $1 billion+ marketplaces, but more importantly, conditions that affect tens of thousands of mostly children.
Yeah, and you, on your website and anytime that you speak, you reference some of these stories, which are just so moving. And I feel like in some ways you're giving hope to some children and their families who may not otherwise have it.
We're privileged to do so. It's really a gift to be able to work on important problems with best or first-in-class medicines, often in areas where no other company would really take on the problem. Our first approved product was in an area that affects maybe 200 kids, but I had the privilege of meeting one of the young boys who's still with us today who would otherwise have passed away from his condition. Those are the types of things that we aspire to do more of in the years to come.
And do you have a conference room in your office named for him?
Yes, yeah, we have a conference room named Elliot after a young man who was one of the first dosed with our therapy for MOCD type A. And we were privileged to actually share with our senior executive team a beautiful article that came out in the Derbyshire Times, where he is a member of the community in and around his life and how it's evolved in really positive ways thanks to the therapeutic, and more importantly thanks to his family and the dedication that they've had to care for Elliot.
So Neil, these are really moving cases, each one of them, but how do you decide how to prioritize R&D, for example? Because I'm assuming many cases that come across your desk are completely worthy.
Yeah, we don't think about prioritization based on peak year sales or where we have sales reps. We think about it fundamentally from the standpoint of, is the science strong? Is the medicine strong? And can we serve patients in a reliable way with the best or first-in-class medicine? And that's taken us into some areas that are very competitive and large, like ATTR cardiomyopathy, and some of the smaller areas like Canavan disease or MOCD type A, where we are the only player in town.
So we're here at the Milken Global Conference, obviously, and you were saying there's a lot more conversation about healthcare than there has been in the past years. How are you involved internationally with BridgeBio?
Yeah, great question. Genetic disease affects people worldwide, as you well know. And one of the things that we've been privileged to do is to actually partner with international healthcare groups like BridgeBio Holdings, for instance, in the Middle East, that allow us insight into how genetics are affecting their population and allow us to distribute our important products to patients in need globally.
So when you think of your global opportunity set, where do you see the most opportunities? Where do you see the most challenges?
The opportunity is just getting started. There's some 10,000 rare genetic conditions that have been identified. Less than 500 of those conditions have end therapy at all. And so 9,500 diseases where we could be first in class, and even in the areas that have medicines, they're often not the last game in town. There is an ability to serve patients better in those communities. Most of the challenges that are attendant for us arise from the challenging business environment to operate a biotechnology firm today, and we're going to need to continue to elaborate on the business model so that we can serve patients in broad and small populations alike. As you know, the equity markets have been quite challenging for some time now, and raising money for conditions that may be quite rare, where the peak year sales may be a little smaller than what big pharma is looking for, has become ever more challenging. So we're doing the hard work so that we can be a sustainable and reliable partner to all of those patient communities.
So speaking of the business model, if you look at the public markets, as you referenced, some public biotechs have had a really rough go the past 3 to 5 years. What do you think the next 3 to 5 look like?
Hard for me to say. I'm not an economic forecaster, but I will say that I believe after the shakeout that occurs, there will be continued interest in new medicines that are either best or first in class. I don't think society is moving away from that. I think there'll be increased attention on drugs that affect deleterious pediatric conditions. Focus on children, focus on mothers, I think is important, and we're congruent with that. And ultimately, if all of this works, there'll be many stronger companies that have weathered the entirety of this really tough storm, and they'll come out the other side doing even more for patients. So I think this could be, in some ways, a time of increased severity, but that leads to stronger companies in the future.
When you think of the business model, what works in the current ecosystem and what doesn't?
What works, I think, is the late stage of our portfolio, certainly a large commercial launch and the 3 phase 3s that you referenced before. I think all of that is working as investors start to scratch their heads around some of the earlier stage bets that they've made. What doesn't work is diversification. I think investors have a limited attention span right now, and they want to focus on one, maybe two assets, and they want to focus on companies that they believe are going to be tuck-ins for pharmaceutical companies, not necessarily companies like ours that intend to build something generational so that we can serve patients across a wide variety of disease indications.
Neil, you may have just answered this, but I'm curious, what is the number one piece of knowledge that you wish non-biotech pharma investors knew?
I think the retrospective probability of success for drugs in the genetic disease area. You do not need to know any specific biology to understand that this is a privileged space thanks to the sequencing of the human genome, the availability of great amounts of data, and our ability to target these well-described conditions at their source. And even if you're a generalist investor, you can look at the statistics and say, I believe BridgeBio is just going to be an average firm in this space. It will be able to provide remarkable products for the patients on a risk-adjusted basis that it serves, and great returns for me over the course of a 5 to 10 year period.
Neil, before I let you go, I want to ask you if you will do a rapid fire round with me.
Sure.
Okay. Neil, what's your number one surprise in your industry right now?
Path dependency and short-termism amongst the investor base, given how long it takes to create a product.
One element that is moving in your world a lot faster than you thought it would.
Global genome sequencing.
One element that is moving a lot slower than you thought it would.
Value-based contracting.
And as we wrap, will you please make one prediction?
We will have new therapies for more than 200 genetic conditions over the next decade.
Neil, thank you very much. Neil Kumar, CEO of BridgeBio.